Yeah, baby.
What is up, everybody? Rod J back in the house on a Wednesday night. That's right. We're keeping the tradition going, the new tradition of trying to get a couple live streams in a week. And this one here, I don't even know where to begin. I am just so happy to have this person on. This person, if you look at going up that mountain of writing about beer and talking about beer and being all around beer, she's put her thing down on everything, and I am so pleased she decided to come on. Got a chance to actually meet with her out at the Ohio Brewers Conference. We followed each other for years on stuff on social media, but finally got a chance to meet earlier this year, and it was as awesome as can be expected. And of course, I'm talking about the one, the only, the incredible Kate Bernot. So thank you for coming on, and a little bit of applause and all psyched up.
Thank you. Can you be my hype man?
Yeah. Anytime.
Introduce me everywhere, professionally, socially. Maybe just when I walk into the bar,
I would get them hyped. I'd be like, put your hands together, Kate Bernot. In the house, dog. In the house.
This is the energy I need.
Yeah. Well, I've seen you bring the energy. When we were at the Ohio Brewers Conference, you brought a lot of good energy, you brought a lot of good detail, a lot of good facts, and we're talking about some of those different things. A lot of stuff happening around the beer world as you see it, and you've been doing it for a good amount of time, which is great. So looking back at the history, and for those of you who want to find out more about Kate, I do have her website there listed, so you can check out the website there. And for those of you on Twitch, didn't forget about you, you can get that there as well. So if you're out there watching, let us know what you're thinking, what questions you may have during the course. You know how I do it. We'll talk here. I have questions, but I always love when you guys have questions because I can just turn it over to you and allow you to ask questions you may have around the beer world. But I talk about, Kate being up there, right? So beer journalist, writing about beer, but that's just like one of those fast type thing. Beer, food, hospitality. Didn't even know about the agricultural stuff, so we can talk about that, like how you got into that, because, with grains and all that kind of stuff, that all comes into beer as well. Former director of the North American Guild of Beer Writers, which is awesome, which I'm actually a member of now, too.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, featured in numerous publications, including the New York Times, the Washington Post, Bon Appetit, Craft Beer and Brewing, and many, many more that I can't even just list all down here on my paper. So again, to have you on is awesome. To share the beer knowledge you have and the things you've seen, the things you've done, 10 plus years in the beer industry. Start off with the easy. Like, how did you get on this beer journey?
Like everyone else, by accident. No, I'm sure there are people who really set out to do beer, but I'll try to do a good abbreviated version. So I think I fell in love with just food and beverage generally because I worked front of house in restaurants and in delis in high school and college. Loved just being around good food and food people and people who cared about flavors and hospitality and all of that. But I got my college degree in journalism. So then it seemed natural to be writing about food and beverage. So that's where I started. I was reporting for a commuter newspaper in Chicago called Red Eye. I was sort of doing food and beverage coverage there. And this thing was happening called craft breweries. And that fell under, my beat. And I was covering a lot of cocktails and restaurants, but craft beer just seemed like my people.
Yeah.
More so than the wine people and the cocktail people, who I love. Nothing against those folks, but just something about craft beer and the energy behind it. Everything was so new and starting up, and there was just a lot happening and a lot to learn. So I just kind of got really interested in it and probably started writing about it more than other topics. And then in 2014, I moved to Phoenix, Arizona to take a job at Draft Magazine, which was an all craft beer magazine. No longer exists, RIP. But that was kind of a dream job. And that's where I really got super serious about beer. I got my beer judge certification. I, started learning so much more about beer because that's really 100% what I was doing. So,
Hmm.
and then from there, just been continuing to learn about beer and the beer business ever since.
You make it seem like it's just a walk in the park. Like, oh, I did this, I did that, and
Twisting and turning. So much of my family being like, "What is it you do exactly?"
Oh, is that something I should know as well? Okay, I'll do that too then. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, and so I've always kept a little bit of like one foot in food writing still. I write about cocktails still sometimes and spirits and wine. I
Hmm.
think beer just is what I write most frequently about, perhaps. But if it's food and beverage, I can do it.
There you go. There you go. And like, so the agricultural thing, how did that come into play as well? I mean, obviously you're out in Montana, so it makes sense to maybe
This is true.
as a part. Yeah.
Yeah. There was a time when I was doing a little more agriculture than I am now, but I've written for places like Modern Farmer and some other, sort of like, more ag focused publications. Cause I mean, once you start learning about beer, you realize there's this huge, agricultural supply chain behind it. Montana grows a ton of barley, not just for craft breweries, but for the Budweisers of the world as well. So just being close to a lot of farmers and a lot of ranchers just makes you
Mhm.
interested in that. I just filed a story for Bon Appetit about that has a little bit of a connection to like ranching in a certain part of
Mhm.
Montana and cattle raising and stuff. It's just like when you live out here, you kind of just see it all the
Yeah.
time. And I mean, I think like ranchers and farmers are some of the most smart, hardworking, interesting
Yeah.
people. So always fun to get an assignment that lets me talk to those people.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then so you're still doing the freelance stuff, but then you're also like is the main thing Sightlines that you're kind
Yeah.
of doing or
That is the bread and butter. So Sightlines is a subscription insights platform for beverage alcohol and increasingly for cannabis and THC and hemp derived
Mhm.
beverages. So essentially, it's a business to business publication. We have a newsletter. We have a free podcast that anyone can listen to. It's called The Gist. And it's
Okay.
me and our director of insights, Brian Roth, giving you all the beverage alcohol and THC news that you need in under 30 minutes. So it's like super quick,
Oh, nice.
super rapid. If you don't have time to catch up on like all the industry stuff, you can't read all the newsletters and whatever, we'll catch you up twice a month in under 30 minutes. So we do that. And I do a lot of consumer behavioral research, trends, digging through every kind of data under the sun to give our subscribers an idea of what's going on in alcohol and in hemp stuff as well.
Cool. So the podcast is the Gist, GIST, right?
Yep, The Gist by
Excellent.
Sightlines. It's on YouTube. Also, if people want to see like visual charts and stuff, which I think is really helpful.
Mhm.
Also wherever Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts.
Okay, excellent. So definitely have to check that out there as well. And you know how I know like you're a high person of importance is because I've got Cy, who's like one of the OGs to the channel. I haven't seen Cy in a long time, but he found out you're on here. He's like, "Hey, Kate!" Like, so,
Hi,
so you're bringing out the OGs from the channel days here.
Heck
So,
yeah. That's awesome.
yeah.
That is awesome.
Um, go ahead.
Oh no, I just it's hey, again, what beer has that, I'm sure other industries like other types of alcohol do have this, but I'm like, I don't know, beer people are just I'm convinced they're friendlier.
I think it's just it's a different thing, right? So it's funny because like I said, me and Kate have known each other for years, but we just met for the first time back in February. And you'd have thought if you see us, like we know each other, we did know each other here, but to meet someone in person, as much as we had, love for each other, was kind of great. but then meeting other people that some I had known before, but some I had not. But by the end of that couple of days, you're like, you're going to be over here, blah, blah, blah. You're going to be over here, blah, blah. Like, okay, we'll catch up. And it's just like a big, warm party that takes place. It's just
100%.
it's like everybody just comes together and everybody's kind of welcoming, and it just all works out. Yeah, he said it's a cool last name. He says because his last name was Bernot. No, I never asked Sai if that's an actual name or one he made up. Wouldn't it be funny if he was related to you down the line somewhere?
Oh my God. That would be too wild. We will have to chat separately. Get our 23andMe results together.
Yeah. Don't let him know he has somebody in the beer industry, though. You might never hear the end of them there. But anyway, yeah, so you're right. It's just like a special group that, I feel like I've been to conferences from a lot of other stuff, but it's just definitely, there's like that warmth type thing. I mean, even before we're drinking, it's just like kind of this warmth type feel I think that takes place there. And he said, "Oh, sorry, no relation." So
that's probably for the best.
But I know you had noticed certified beer judge. You're also certified cider professional, I guess, level 1, which I didn't even know that was even out there. Yeah. But are you doing anything, like any goal, like with the Cicerone program? Are you doing that at all right now, or?
I have not been studying for the Cicerone exam right now. I think more of my energy has been into hopefully advancing in the BJCP program.
Okay.
Just this past weekend, I was helping judge the Montana Beer Awards. And,
very nice.
Which is just a phenomenal competition, kind of modeled on like the Oregon Beer Awards. So all Montana breweries and tons of judges, a lot from Montana, but a lot from out of state as well. Really well run. Anyway, I was talking to other judges there about getting a group together that wants to sit for the written national BJCP exam, because I think a lot of us are kind of on that bubble of crossing over to national rank. So that's kind of where my energy has been right now, that I'd like to advance to that national rank.
Okay.
But yeah, beer judging and sensory stuff are not totally like linked up with what I do in my day job all day, but I think I have a blast with it, and I love learning, and there's so much to learn in terms of sensory, and it just makes the experience of drinking just more enjoyable for me. So
I definitely agree. It's like with the channel here, like people would ask, if I brew beer, and I was like, well, I don't brew now, but yeah, I did initially start doing like some home brewing type things on beer. And for me, I think it was just that if I'm going to go full into what I want to do here, I want to get my hands dirty over here and get that educational component. And it brings something different. I mean, I tell people, like, do you have to make beer to be able to do a good beer channel? Well, probably not. But if you do have that, that gives you a little bit more something that someone else may not have there. Plus, you learn more of the industry. You're more of that kind of way. You know the different things you have to do, and you know the pains that go into it, and learning everything, why the sanitation is that important, and how to do what those hops will smell like, and knowing how to set your gravities and all kinds of different things that you don't get that possibly from just, you can read a book, but it's not the same thing as getting your hands in there and actually doing it, right? So you doing a sensory. Yeah.
I mean, if you and I were judging beer together, as someone who has been around homebrewing, but like never really got super into it myself, you would be able to tell me procedural things like, oh, I think if they had just, mashed in a little warmer, or, like you would perhaps have that perspective that I'm kind of like, I know what I taste. I can often connect that back to process, but without having that like super hands-on, I do think that's a huge advantage to talking about beer. 100%.
Yeah. Well, the sensory thing is so huge. I mean, when I was home brewing, just going to get your grains or to get your hops, just being there and just getting that aroma. I don't know. I was also a kid when I was young that smelled gas too, and I thought that was fine. But they said you just don't want to do that when you're a kid. But anyway, as I got older, like just those smells, it just adds those extra senses.
I am with you. I loved the way the gas station smelled as a kid. And I grew up in New Jersey where you can't pump your own gas. So going to the gas station, you would like wait, roll down the window, wait for the gas station attendant to come. And I was like, I love the smell of gas and tires.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that says about us, Rod, and our demented
I don't know if we
but...
talked about that. We might be like stepbrothers by the end of this. Like, did we just become best friends? Yes, we did. Because
you want to go sniff some gas?
No, I grew up in New Jersey. I grew up in South Jersey. So,
talk about this.
I have no idea how that didn't come up, but I grew up in South Jersey. So yeah, going in, and I still hate when I go back to New Jersey. I get out to pump my gas because I'm used to it now. And they're like, no, you can't. I was like, I keep forgetting, whenever I'm up there to visit, it's like weird. I can't like, what are you afraid is going to happen? Somebody's going to just take this thing and run away with it or start shooting gas like they don't know how to control it. It's just a hose, but
35 other states seem to function just fine. Yeah.
I think it's pretty much the union laws, which, New Jersey, how strong the unions are. So, I mean, it does keep people employed, I guess. But yeah, it's
people employed, and it is nice in like the depths of winter when you're like,
in winter it is good. Yeah. Pulling to the AM PM and don't have to get out the car. It makes it nice for sure. And welcome Vanessa as well. Cheers, my friend. And we also got the Alkanaz Ray, I'm thinking, in the house as well. And says that you're equally weird, and that's okay. I mean, to New Jersey folks, maybe that's why we vibe so well. And you know what I just found out, because I know you don't have it out there in Montana. At the mid-April, they're putting their first Wawa in Ohio near me.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
They'll get you a half and half.
Yeah, and they're supposed to get like, I think 8 to 10 of them by the end of the year in this region, but like 60 throughout the state. So I'm like, Wawa's going national, so they might get out to Montana at some point too. But
oh my gosh, see, Wawa wasn't even like, I didn't get to go to Wawa because I'm from. I believe Central Jersey exists. You and I can debate that.
Oh no, it definitely Central Jersey. Tom's River is like Central Jersey. Yeah, it definitely exists.
I've had people try to tell me it doesn't, but I couldn't get Wawa unless I went like much further south in the state. So it was always kind of like a treat when I could get Wawa.
So you didn't get it up there? I didn't realize that. I know.
Not when I was growing up. Maybe. Okay. I mean, I've been gone since I was 18, so who knows?
Yeah.
If they've expanded northward, but for a while. I mean, all my growing up, it was like, no, I had to go be seeing my cousins down in South Jersey to.
Tell me about Wawa. And it's always like the gas station. Right? No, it's a gas. Yeah, no, yeah,
it's so much more.
It's a gas station, but it's not just a gas station, right? Yeah.
It's the way people feel about like Buc-ee's or whatever their regional.
Like Buc-ee's and what? Now I don't know if you got them out there where you're at. You might, because you're closer, up on that. The Canadian border, like Tim Hortons are popping up in a lot of spots. So we see a lot of those, that people will go to as well. Yeah. Speaking of my buddy Ray Alkanaz, he's in Canada, so he's in Ontario.
Oh, so
yeah.
The land of Tim Hortons,
yeah. Benzene. It might be the benzene compounds in the gas, but I'm telling you, as a kid, I enjoyed the smell, but did not realize you weren't supposed to smell them too long.
We turned out okay? Question mark.
Yeah. Question mark. Jury's still out on that one, but we're trying. Smells are visceral. I took a tour on the aircraft carrier. The smell of diesel, tube, and sweat just took me back 30 years instantly. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. But talking about beer, because we haven't cracked one open yet. I know you got one there. I got one here.
Let's do it.
What's the beer that you have from the great state of Montana?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I was judging the Montana Beer Awards last weekend. Oh my God, like I brag on Montana beer all the time, and I try not to just be a homer about it, but our beer really, like the quality across the board is so good for being such a rural state with very low population. Like these breweries are really exceptional. And then after the judging, there was all this beer left over after the competition. Judges, if you want to come in and grab some, I was like, yes, I do. So one of the cans that I picked up is from Beer Brewing in Bozeman. It's their Vigilante IPA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
And just a pretty like down the middle American IPA. I haven't had it I don't get over to Bozeman all that often, so I know they sell it in Missoula, but I just like haven't had this in a minute. And I was like, I'm gonna reacclimate myself with this beer. So that was the one that I grabbed and that I'm looking forward to drinking. How about you?
Nice. So the one I hear, it's funny. Every time I hear Bozeman, I think Yellowstone now too. By the way, so
I mean,
yeah,
that's right.
So yeah, so the one I actually picked up, and this is actually out of Cleveland, or as the kids call it, the land up there. Masthead Brewing. This is actually it was a World Beer Cup winner 2024. Didn't realize that before. Silver award. So
that'll be good.
yeah, which we'll be talking about that here in a second because we'll both be at this year's World Beer Cup. But I ended up picking up one from Masthead. It is their jalapeno IPA. So you get that there. Camera might get a little bring it back or tilt it, but yeah. So jalapeno IPA. And the jalapeno was something that kind of caught my interest there. I'm a big spice fan, so I love peppers and spice kicks. And since we were pleased to present one of our fan favorites, jalapeno IPA, brewed with fresh jalapenos, the fruity notes from hand-selected American-grown hops pair well with that unmistakable aroma and flavor, all backed up with just the right level of spiciness. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and crack this one open. Nice little pint can on a school night.
Fantastic. Yeah. If you like jalapenos, I judged the experimental beer category of the Montana Beer Awards.
Okay.
And there was a sour beer with like jalapenos, habaneros, serranos, and pickle brine.
Pickles are big in beers nowadays. I'm finding out
for pickles and peppers. I was like, yeah, this is so much. This is so much happening.
So, what did you think of it?
Honestly, it tasted better than I thought. It didn't end up placing or medaling.
Yeah,
it was kind of a lot. Like it wasn't bad. But it was like, this is a lot, maybe pick one.
Yeah. Like too much going on here, right? Like there's too much happening. Yeah.
You live in the Midwest, you know Jardinera.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It smelled and tasted like Jardinera because it's like I'm getting pepper, but I'm getting pickle. So this just kind of tastes like an Italian beef sandwich.
Wasn't really what we were going for, but
that's but again, smells being visceral, like you can't give me that pepper plus brine, and I'm not gonna think of Jardinera. So
yeah, that's one of the cool things too about the beer industry, the terminology we use on things, right? Just always like you said before, I had to stop using like musk so much because it's just like only in beer can musk sound like, oh, okay, that's supposed to be there when you're talking about IPA, but anywhere else, nobody wants muskiness around. So it's just like
that doesn't sound great.
No.
Funk, yeah.
Well, it's a nice looking one. It's got the clarity. It's not like a hazy, so it's always nice not always having everything be a hazy.
Yes, agreed. This one is pretty like there's a light. The lighting isn't great in this office. Sorry. There's a light haze to it, but I would say that's more of like a chill haze than a hazy beer haze.
Yeah. I will say if you like jalapeno, this is the beer to get. I mean, I am getting big blasts of jalapeno out there. Love the taste. Getting it nicely on the lips, getting it all over the mouth. 6.8% ABV, so not too bad there. Yeah, I mean, like if I was having like a Chipotle bowl or a burrito or something like that, I mean, pair this right up with that jalapeno kick. But I'm a big pepper person, so yeah, I'm really liking this one. And it was the last 4-pack when I got in the store too.
Is it? I love the jalapeno aroma. Like I just love that. Like
it's there. Oh yeah, that's what it smells like. The fresh jalapenos. Yeah.
It's so bright.
Yeah.
Nice. I was like, this beer tastes so nice and fresh and expressive. And it says canned January 20th. That's pretty good.
It's not bad. Yeah. That's just
nice.
just over a month out.
Yeah, that's a nice little. Yeah, they call this a West Coast IPA. I feel like this is pretty straight down the middle of like what I would just consider like a classic American IPA. Like not crazy dank, not super caramel malts or chewy in the body or anything. Just like light, but like nice firm bitterness. So
you
really
get like
what I
you getting the
want.
piney and grapefruit and stuff, and
Grapefruit, pine, some. Yeah, and like kind of bright grassy notes that are really pleasant. Yeah, just that's super. This is kind of just like what I want in a classic IPA.
It's like it doesn't always have to go over the board and do all the other stuff like that. Although as I drink a jalapeno IPA, I'm digging this one. But sometimes just to get that classic is just a nice one just to have and throw it back, right? It's kind of like once in a while I'll pick up just Sierra Nevada Pale Ale.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Or pick up Torpedo and it still just hits, all these years later. It's just that nice classic feeling. You want something let me go ahead and put the old slippers on and get comfortable. And there you go, right there. All right. So
Bell's Brewing started distributing out to Montana a couple years ago. And as a former, Chicago resident, I was like, hell yeah, so excited to see Bell's out here.
My buddy Red is up there. He's not wrong. He's not wrong. But he said with Bell's.
But yeah, just having a Two Hearted again after years of not having it, I was like, man, just Centennial hops straight down the middle.
Yeah.
Like I love this. It's a little like that beer is probably kind of like old school these days, but I was like, you can't tell me this isn't perfect.
I'm trying to figure out with Cheers Cajun, trying to figure out if they got rid of double Two Hearted now and are going just with the heavy hearted, because now they have a heavy hearted ale out.
Okay.
And I haven't seen double Two Hearted in the last couple of years, so maybe they just went ahead and got rid of the other one and kind of replaced it.
I bet.
But it's funny, speaking of Bell's, one of my other friends here, Joe, the Beer Patrol, great beer channel as well. I sent him a message the other day because I'm on the Bell's thing, obviously, is connected with all the different breweries. I get all the updates and stuff. So we were exactly 1 month out from Oberon Day.
Spring is coming.
Yeah, that's just how I classify it. Yeah. We were so right there. And I said it to him. He's like, he always gives me shit. Like he's just not huge into the Oberon. Like, oh, your favorite day's coming. Here you go. And I sent him a thing. He was like, you son of a
But it sounds like you're a big Oberon fan.
Oh, I'm a huge Oberon fan. The funny thing is they came out with the Oberon. I want to say it was the mango wheat one, I think.
Oh, okay.
No, it wasn't the Eclipse. It was one of their.
I was gonna say there's like a dark one.
There's a dark, but there's
the Eclipse,
I think it might have been their mango. It might have been the mango Oberon. And I was not a huge fan of it. That ended up being his favorite one. Like I like that one. Like I can't so we didn't meet him just on vibe on the Oberon. But yeah.
But you could maybe split like an Oberon variety pack.
Yeah. That could definitely possibly work. But Bell's does some really good stuff. So that you're getting him out there is great with that, because Larry Bell, I remember when he picked a fight with, I think it was Virginia, where he cut off distribution and people were mad down there because he wasn't sending, he got into something with the distributors. He ended up since then going back and distributing them. But yeah, people were really upset.
Yeah. Well, it is wild to get it out here because so many of my friends out here, who are from Montana, never heard of Bell's. They're like, what is this? I think people were kind of divided on Two Hearted. There's good local IPAs. Do you really need an IPA? But everyone loved Oberon. Everyone was very excited about Oberon and was bringing it out on the rivers and all the summertime river shenanigans that we do. Yeah. And they were like, look at this can design. It's from 1995. I was like, it literally is probably from 1995. It's so strange, but so great and so iconic. And everyone was like, this is so tasty.
Yeah. It's like you get like March 21st or 22nd, and it's just like, oh, spring is here. Oberon's out. Like, you
Yeah.
look forward to it. At least I do.
Forget
I know you
Groundhog
do. Yeah.
Day.
Yeah.
The
Forget.
sincere Groundhog
Yeah.
Day. It's like, it is spring.
Screw the groundhog. Is Oberon here? Okay, we're good.
It's Oberon here. Yeah.
Sai says, we used to get Hop Slam and mini barrels here, but I haven't seen Bell in years. Yeah.
Oh.
Depending on distribution. Where are you at, Sai?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sai, where are you located at, my friend? I know you told me before.
About the mini barrels.
Yeah.
Bells did those like tiny, like countertop keg things. Yeah.
Well, speaking of Hop Slam, I remember when Hop Slam would hit and it'd be gone like in a day. Now I see it lingering around. So it's kind of like, does that go to because there's so many beers we have out in the market now? Or if people they're like, oh, I want to go do this one. I've done that many times. Let me do, like, I wonder how that's playing into it. Or is it just, Hop Slam, you get a 6-pack, it's like $17.99 as well, right? So usually 17 to 20, depending where you're at. So some people are like, I might not want to pay that too with some of the cost of stuff, which, speaking of cost of stuff, because we get into that, from the research and stuff you're doing, it has to be things coming up from some of the breweries around the whole aluminum and steel situation, how costs might be impacted. Anything that you're seeing out there with that and what you're kind of reporting on? And I know I talked to a few people at the conference we were at, there were concerns starting to rise, but just curious on your take.
I think brewers are trying to brace for it. I mean, I haven't talked to anyone that is like their can order is due or is like coming up really soon. But I spoke to a number of the brewers at the Montana Beer Awards who said that in advance, anticipating that these tariffs might come down the line, I guess their can suppliers had brought in just all these extra shipping containers from China and from Canada and from wherever they could get it, and have converted just entire warehouses that were full of other stuff to just be cans. So it's like floor to ceiling, just a tropical or just a maze of cans. And so they're hoping that, maybe that'll last, maybe that's a year's supply for that can manufacturer. So I think there's a question. I think that's happening with a lot of potential goods that tariffs could be applied on, that the kind of middle suppliers in that tier are like stockpiling so that, maybe those prices don't go up immediately, but it's hard to see how that's not going to go up at some point. It's just kind of a question of when, right?
Yeah. It's kind of like an incremental type thing. And I was talking to somebody a few weeks ago, and they're like, "Oh, they just go to bottles." Like, it's not that easy. Just say, "Oh, we're a brewery, we go from cans to bottles." One, you got to have the right lineup to even set that up. Where you have, if you're using a canning line, you're not using the same thing as a bottling line, and then you got to go and restructure a lot of different things. And it's not just about the aluminum for the can; it's about the steel for the tanks. You go to a brewery, there's so much steel things that are around. If a part goes down or whatever like that, you got to import something else in. You see brewers scramble between breweries, like, "Hey, we're down so and so, can someone help us out?" And they're always like pitching in on things. So it's not an easy transition for them to prepare for. But it's something I think some are put, like the squirrel in the winter, right? You put someone that's away just in case it's a long winter, right? So that's what they do.
And you hope they last. This was a wild story on the steel tariffs thing. I was chatting with a guy who owns a cidery in Utah, and his cidery, they also make wine, and now they're thinking of adding a brewery. And he had brewed beer before. He's very technically minded. He had a very strong idea of like what kind of brew house he wants, right? He's not just going to buy some used crappy thing. Right. So he's like, I want this specific like type of brew house. So thinking though that these tariffs are going to come down the line, he wasn't ready to quite buy it yet because I think they're still constructing some stuff, whatever. He signed agreements with like 5 different brew house manufacturers, but with a 100% refundability clause. So he's locking in the price now, but he's like, I signed it with 5 different companies. I'm only going to keep one, but I'm going to see like which one I end up wanting to go with. But at least I've locked in this pre-tariff price, and that's our way of kind of wiggle room getting around the tariffs. Because like the brew house manufacturers don't want to charge people higher prices either, so they're like willing to be like, okay, if you sign with us now, let's lock it in. But it's just so weird that people are having to kind of do these kind of maneuvers to.
Yeah.
It's like, what is the point of these if we're just all going to evade them anyway?
Yeah.
Let's just get rid of it.
Well, it's the uncertainty of it, right? So it's just, you got to prepare for the worst but hope for the best, and that's what that's what a lot of them are doing out there now. And you know, the idea behind trying to do something like that is not to have it stretch out long, because that's when it really starts to bang into the numbers. But things go for a short period and other people wise up and do different things. Hopefully you find a solution. But I don't know. I'm waiting to see what happens out there. Talking to some people, is definitely, the concern is up there. And at the conference, talking with a few of the hop farms, people that were there, some of the grain farms, they have the other situation where their concern is about getting people to work the fields. Like I was talking to one of the hop guys. Their concern is, like, he was showing me like the technique on how you have to pull the hops. It's like a specialized technique. You just can't put anybody out there. And the migrant workers they had doing it had it down. Well, some of them aren't now showing up. Then that's going to be crops they may end up losing down there. And of course, that'll impact the price if there's less crops and stuff too. So it's kind of interesting.
I mean, labor wise, like, yes, those are specialized kind of roles, and there's not enough American labor to fill that. Like hop farming, like picking hops has to happen in the dead of night so that the hops aren't stressed out by the heat of the day. It happens at like 2 and 3 in the morning. These workers are living in like trailers in the fields. Like, you know, good luck finding people willing to work for that amount of money, you know.
And don't ask
the industry is not built to like support $20 an hour hop pickers. Like, that's just not the model right now. So it's going to be a lot of freaking out if they can't get those workers.
Because we've seen it on some of the farmers that have the citrus farms out there, where they were saying some of their production is going to be off this year. They're saying, like, it was one of the ones out of California, but they were doing oranges, and they're talking about they're going to lose like a certain percentage of their crops because they didn't have enough workers. So, you know, I tell people when they go into beer and they see these beer prices shift a lot, so you might have to bear with some of the breweries and just, you know, they may have to increase prices because that's what they need to make. I mean, margins are thin for breweries anyway, for most of them. So you just gotta, you know.
I also read a story today that I would encourage folks to check out about Woolly Pig Farm Brewery. They are, they're in the Midwest somewhere. Are they?
I've heard that name before.
Yeah, they had, where are they? Fresno, Ohio? Where's that?
Oh, I didn't know there was a Fresno, Ohio. Maybe that's why I heard Woolly Pig, though, because I
mean, they are literally a farm.
Central Ohio, it says. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Anyway, they this brewery is very like sustainability minded. They had this partial grant from the federal government to put in solar energy at the farm. And the deal was like the brewery would pay half and then federal grants would cover the other half. But with the federal funding freeze, this brewery is now told that they're not going to get the federal grant. They are now expected to pay $290,000 more than that's like the second half of it. It's like, you can't just tell a small business that they owe $300,000 that they weren't budgeting for. Like, and obviously the solar company is like, well, we got to get paid. Like we did, you know, but where is this money supposed to come from?
Right.
Just like a straight, you know, you don't think of all the ways that these grants and whatever like affect beer of all things, but like it totally does.
Oh, it definitely does. I mean,
Yeah.
it gets into a lot of the different things. And Cy did say San Diego, by the way. So
So nice. Send some
an-
sun my way.
another spot with great breweries, right?
Yeah, no
But
doubt.
yeah, all that stuff kind of bleeds down, and it's like,
Yeah.
it's all part of it. But we'll have to see what happens there. Like I said, I know coming up through the year there'll probably be more topics, and now being part of the Brewer Association, I'm sure I'll see some stuff coming out. I'm sure you'll be reading some of your stuff that you'll be discovering, of course, coming out as well, and talking to some different folks. I've had a couple. I had, like I said, I told you earlier, I had Jamie on last week from Rationale Brewing, and we even touched on a little bit on some of the stuff they have to look at out there too. So it's going to be one of those topics, and we're going to see how it all plays out. But again, if you see the breweries kind of come up on price a little bit, just know what they got to work with out there. Just got to be prepared for it, so to speak. But so what are some of the, like in your 10 plus years in the industry or whatever? Everybody kept saying 10 plus. I don't know how long the number. I just kept seeing 10 plus everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. Like, when did I start covering like beer? Because I was covering like food and beverage generally, which included beer for a while. I mean, I graduated college in 2010, so people can do the math and figure out how old I am. But since then, I have probably written about beer in some capacity for like 15 years now.
Yeah, like 15 or whatever. And what are some of the things that are surprising you now that you're seeing out there?
Ooh, I mean, I am still kind of amazed as someone who came up when craft beer was so specialized and like so niche, and you had to go to like the good beer store to get good beer, or there was like, you have to go to like the craft beer bar to get craft beer, now it's just like craft beer is just everywhere. It's like at the nail salon, it's like at the movie theater. It's like, I just can't believe I'll be somewhere that I'm like, oh, no way is there going to be decent beer here? And it's like, oh yeah, we have like 5 local drafts. And you're like, okay. That still just kind of surprises me. It's like, oh, wow, we did it. Like, this was the dream, right? This was craft beer's fight for so long, was just like, let's get better and more options for people in more places. And now it's like every gas station has 3 coolers of local beer, and you're like, wow, that happened quickly. That still kind of surprises me.
Well, it's funny, we talked about that probably about a month ago. I did a shorts on it as well, but in Ohio, like when I was coming back from actually the Ohio conference, I stopped because it was like on the billboard on the side was a Marathon gas station, craft beer, best craft beer gas or something. That's like, you're driving down the road and you see like a craft beer thing.
I would stop.
You have to stop and go see what's going in there. And went in there and was just kind of blown away by what they had there. And I'm just grabbing stuff. I had to walk up. Do you have like a box? And they're like, a box? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be taking a few of these more than a bag will suffice for. So she gave me this box and I'm filling stuff up. And she's like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, but it was just stuff you didn't see. And they had taps. So if you had a growler or something like that. So it's just like, wow. I'm like, yeah, you go through Ohio, you see a gas beer station advertising beer. The only place I've seen a Utopias in Ohio was in a Marathon gas station in Cincinnati.
Wow. Oh my gosh, Utopias.
I've never seen it in a beer store, but I found it in this little gas station. I didn't end up getting it, but it was like weird that the only place I've seen it was a gas station. Yeah. So you just never know.
I mean, truly, there's for our San Diego listener, there's a Shell station out there. I think it's in Pasadena. Anyway, there's a Shell gas station somewhere in California. I believe it's closer to San Diego, that gets like wild drops of crazy East Coast stuff. Does like collaborations with breweries. It'll be like, oh, this is like a collaboration with this Shell gas station. And you're like, what is happening? But it's just because the guy who owns it loves craft beer and was like, I'm gonna make this our thing, and I think that's amazing. That's so cool.
Yeah, that's pretty intriguing. Like, you got an other half Shell edition? Okay, I'll try that.
Totally. Literally. Yeah, literally. And yeah, I'm trying to think of other things that have surprised me. I mean, I will say when COVID first hit, I was doing a lot more like news reporting than I am now.
Hmm.
I was doing like more news reporting for Good Beer Hunting, which is on hiatus right now. But
Hmm.
I was covering things like almost daily that were changing so fast. And at the outset, I was like, and the Brewers Association was kind of saying this too, was like hundreds of breweries are going to close. Like this is going to be kind of a mass extinction event for breweries. And I think, I kind of believe that. I was like, yeah, I mean, if you can't open up to the public, like how are these people going to keep their businesses
Yeah.
alive and whatever? And the fact that we didn't see major closing, obviously breweries closed, but like we didn't see the huge
No. You see some
500,
close and someone else
1,000
will buy it.
breweries.
Yeah.
To me, that was so surprising in such a good way. Just like, wow, the resilience and the creativity and just the sheer scrappiness of like selling beer out of a car and selling beer out of a to-go window and doing home delivery and figuring out any which way
Yeah.
to keep selling beer to people in the most creative and like exhausting ways. I was just like, damn, we didn't see the bloodbath that we thought we were going to see from COVID, and it's like such a testament
Oh
to
yeah. Yeah.
brewers. Yeah,
Yeah. And this is my buddy Bart. He's been a
I
fan of
better
that a long time, but we had a chance to meet in person. He's actually South Jersey as well. So just wanted to throw that out there because
represent.
Jersey's represent, right? You mentioned that with the COVID. So with the COVID thing kind of hit, it was kind of concern out there. But I always said like there's always things that come through, and as a country, as a culture, whatever, there's always the adapt factor. So whenever we've been like faced with stuff, whether it's been like I don't know, world war or some other different type things, we've had to adapt, right? You find other ways to adapt to get it around. It's kind of like one of my favorite shows to watch on the weekend is The Food That Built America, and watched the one about Pabst Blue Ribbon when Prohibition
Mm,
hit. And I had no idea, but they made cheese to stay alive as a company. And it was because of them. They ended up selling that cheese to Kraft, which became later that Kraft gooey type cheese when Prohibition ended. And they went back to making beer. But it's always that adapt factor, right? So when you had COVID hit, then you had, oh, okay, well, now we see some states are doing beer delivery. And now we're seeing
mm,
some states that are like, just you can order it, you just pick it up at the doors. And it opened up different ways. And then after COVID, some states are like, hey, you can keep doing it. You had such good success with it. Why do you want to kill another business line for you? And you had things like DoorDash starting to get involved, delivering alcohol and more. So it almost like
wild.
it shifted it, and that helped to keep a lot of the breweries going and stuff, which was great. So it's a matter of
100%.
adapting to it. And one of the things I was going to ask you too is from what you're seeing out there, because we've been kind of floating that 92, 9,300 to 9,600, 9,700 range back and forth. Even though we had, like we said, the conference had like a kind of a net loss last year. It was like 300. It was like most of the stuff when people went down, another brewery stepped in, right? So overall, it wasn't as total really felt, but it's kind of like,
Mhm.
do we hit that 10,000 mark this year? Possibly is kind of
Mm.
the thing, or maybe the ceiling is at 9,500 number. I don't
Ooh,
know, but
yeah.
yeah, because that's where
I
we
would
hit the
take
resistance.
if we're doing an over under on 10,000, I would take the under for this
You
year.
take the under for this
But
year.
but
Well,
there's still
now,
many
well,
breweries
now with
opening.
everything taking place, yeah, because I think that's
Fair,
going to set
yeah.
some things back.
But there are still breweries opening, I mean,
Hmm.
and in, I think in less mature beer markets,
Yeah.
if you just want to open your little tap room in a town that doesn't have one and
Hmm.
you don't need to set out to make 10,000 barrels a year, you just want to like serve your little community. I think there's still always room for that. It's like saying, are there too many coffee shops? Like, I don't know, maybe in some cities, but if you're the only coffee shop in your town, there's probably a need for a coffee shop.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um, there's well over 10,000 American wineries.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So again, like the business model is different, the margins are different. I'm not trying to be apples to oranges, but like as long as you have sound financials and you're scaled right.
Yeah. Well, I think with the beer too, it's you have the winery, right? The winery is more of a destination type thing, right? Just like a distillery.
Yeah.
But with the brewery, you have the destination aspect, but at the same point, I think you have more of a community type aspect where you're having different communities saying, I want a brewery. Like I want to have a brewery here. I want to have a brewery there. So you see more and I think with more people, and this is just one of my opinions here, but one more people that are kind of like living the life now of the remote type workforce, right? They're not driving into the big city because we've seen a lot of city stuff have to close because people aren't there. Now the communities are getting stuff out in the suburbs and all those areas that you're having some things out there. The communities are like fighting to have their own brewery keep doing so well. I think like in the squeeze out take place, I feel like those community and those little regional type spots will do better than maybe some of the national ones because people aren't going to maybe go out to the destination type ones as much.
I totally agree. I think, there's, I think about some small towns in Montana that I drive through where the brewery is, maybe even the only place to eat in town. Right.
Yeah.
So not only is it a social gathering spot for people, but it might really be one of the few kind of food and beverage options, period. Plus, trivia, plus they host the fundraisers, plus they do movie nights.
Yeah. And it's your neighbor. Yeah. It's your neighbor, right? So you want to help your neighbor out, so.
And I feel like, like why would there not be room for more of those in every kind of little town? But I mean, I think the breweries that are, will we see another just like Rheingeist pop up in the next 3 years? Probably not. Like, I don't think people are just growing to that regional level.
Yeah.
Anymore.
Yeah.
They're not there already.
Yeah. I mean, being here in Cincinnati and seeing Rheingeist have the explosion they have, was awesome in itself. But then, Cincinnati, I say we have what I would consider the big three is Rheingeist, and then I have Mad Tree, and then I have Braxton, which is on the Kentucky side, which now they have a spot downtown. They took over there was a 3 Points Brewery downtown Cincinnati. They closed. Well, Braxton said, well, we'll make that one of our other locations. We wanted something in Ohio anyway, right? So as one closes, another one jumps in. And I think the ones that are coming up now are more like, hey, we need to actually manage to our size. Let's not push it too far. And I always go back and when we do the show, I've said numerous times, like I always go back to the out of Kansas. It was Tallgrass out of Kansas. Yeah, and how they found themselves stretched too far. And that kind of led to them having to pull stuff in before they finally closed their door. But it was kind of like they had a good beer. I mean, I enjoyed their beer, but it's kind of like you're pushing out. It's kind of like Anchor, right? Like if you're Anchor and you're doing 70% of your sales in California, you want to get across the country and you want to get overseas, but why stretch yourself that thin when all your stuff's California? Just do that there, right? And maybe collab with somebody else. So I think they, breweries are learning now to not push themselves too far.
Every drop of beer that you sell 1 mile further from your brewery makes you less money.
Yeah.
Just fact, right? Like transportation costs, sure, but like staffing, right? Maybe you need sales reps out there. It's hard to maintain quality the further you get away because you don't have eyeballs on it. You don't know what these far-flung retailers are doing. It's really like if you could sell your 5,000 barrels within your county, you should do that. Like you should, like the smaller you can keep that footprint, giving you the volume you need, the more profitable you're going to be. Which isn't to say like national breweries, there's no model there. Obviously there is, but like they're on another level.
Yeah. Well, it's different now when you look at a Sierra Nevada or you look at a New Belgium. They got into the game so early. They were the only ones in town for so many parts of the country, right? So even though they might not be your local thing, you're used to them being your local thing because that's what was there when you were younger and their craft beer was coming up. So you're still going to drink their stuff. Except I won't drink that new fat tire, but that's a whole different story because I like the old fat tire. So
Dude, fat tire is an amber ale. Full stop. You do it.
Yeah, they just changed the whole thing on it, but it's it's that thing, right? So back then they were able to kind of build it all out, but now because you have so many of the community type thing, that's a big risk to try to push it out further, right? And go too fast or go too far.
Well, yeah, and like, I mean, it's hard. I remember, gosh, 5 to 10 years ago at this point, when you'd get really excited about some out-of-state brewery distributing to you, right? You'd be like, oh shit, we're gonna get whoever, and you'd get all excited about it, and there'd be tap takeovers and whatever, and it was like, I just don't. A very small subset of people care about that today.
Today.
The geekiest of the geeks, Even I'll be like at the bottle shop in town, and I'll be like, oh, they started distributing here? Like, I don't even know. I'm like, oh, we get Cascade beers now? Like, okay. Also RIP to Cascade. But again, maybe you don't need to be everywhere. Maybe that was a last ditch effort to like pick up some volume. But it's like I can't even keep up with like.
Yeah. Well, that's even now. Like, why even go wait in line on Black Friday for Goose Island? Because we still got Bourbon County side in our Kroger grocery store. They're still trying to get rid of the Bourbon counties they gotten on hand. So I go to New Jersey sometimes, and it's like I'll see stuff. I went there one day. I couldn't believe it. I walked into one store, and it was Firestone Walker, one of their specialty beers. Right. Usually everywhere it's like 13 or 14 a bottle. They were selling like for $5.99 just to get it out of there. And I looked at it like, you don't even have to drop a price on this. Like, this can sit for a couple of years as long as it's nice conditions.
Yeah, you're basically just coloring it for me.
Yeah, and like, but I'm like, if you got like 4 of them, I'll take them all right now. Just take them off your hands. I'm like, because it's just like, this is crazy. But you have someone that was some store owners don't know what they actually have sometimes. But it's just amazing to see some of those things that are out there. But back in the day, like, Bourbon County or some of the Firestone or some of the other ones, some of the brewery stuff would fly off the shelves. Now you just see stuff still just lingering out there. But then you see somebody come in and get the little local type, brewery they got there, one of their smaller ones, and that's who they want to support. So times have definitely changed in that regard.
I think there's something, kind of healthy about that change, though. Like, for the average person who just likes beer, but is not like beer is a hobby, right? They're just like, I like drinking beer. Right. Supporting a brewery that makes great quality beer in your state or in your local town or whatever, that maybe employs some of your friends, that hosts events you care about. I mean, that's a way that like makes sense that people feel more connection to that than like, I'm going to stand online for this like very complicated, expensive beer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a weird concept. And I think the idea that craft beer is becoming less like fetishized and less, in a sense, like complicated and rarefied and whatever. Like, I think that's actually kind of a healthy, I think that encourages hopefully like more everyday people to just drink beer. And remember what Dr. J was saying in her keynote at the Ohio conference, that like you used to sell one beer every week.
6 a week, right? But now I'm not. Yeah.
And now it's like selling 2 pints to 3 different people every week. Right. I think she was so smart to put it that way. And I think that's where we're at. Is like there are more people probably interested in craft beer. They're just not standing online for Bourbon County.
Right. Yeah, I can't wait to see her in April too. She just put so much. I love that she played off of what you did too. It's like you guys worked well. Like you went the Tuesday, and then she went that way. You guys so much good things that were shared. Sai said many of the craft shops here have sold or are renting their facilities to other brands. It's kind of insane how much has changed in the last 5 to 10 years. So, yeah, San Diego. I got to think like that landscape on the craft just. The scene had to be like almost like a wiping of the windshield, like, okay, we're going to start over again, or a blackboard or something like that, and everything. It's just totally different.
I mean, when modern times like
Oh
sold,
yeah.
that was another like watershed, like kind of blow my mind moment
Yeah.
where it was like, because I remember going to San Diego and it was like I couldn't fight through the people to get into Modern Times. Like it
Yeah.
was
I
the
remember. Yeah.
hottest thing in town. And then, again, it's like not that much, 5 years later, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
this is like up on the chopping block,
Yeah. Well, Modern Times, and then you had Green Flash,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden Ballast Point started disappearing. And
Oh
then you had
yeah.
the Kings and Convicts deal. And you're like, what the? Like they were bought on a golf course? Like Constellation sold them at such a deep discount because they lost money on them. They were just like, yeah,
Yep.
get them off the books. And now I am starting
I
to see
mean,
Ballast Point pop up a little bit more, but it was cut for a
oh,
while. Like you
interesting.
weren't seeing them anywhere though.
I haven't seen them in a long time. And I mean,
Yeah.
again, like the story of like how Modern Times or Ballast Point kind of fell apart is not because like drinkers didn't want it. I mean, the companies were just like either poorly financially structured or
Mhm.
whatever. It wasn't like people didn't want those beers, but it is crazy how the fastest rising star can just, because I mean, yeah, Ballast Point was like literally history
Yeah.
making, like the first
Yeah.
$1 billion, craft brewery purchase, and then it's like now it's like, what's Ballast Point?
It's like Constellation bought the Fire Festival with them.
Oh my
There's
God.
nobody here. There's nobody here.
It's just habanero sculpin in a bottle, and then just like nothing dead behind the eyes. Like,
I think we got suckered, fellas. Yeah.
yikes.
Yeah. No. I just started seeing Sculpin pop up and a couple of the other things. So maybe they're trying to get them back out there again. Maybe they had to restructure some stuff, but I mean, it was a good
Sculpin was a
beer.
great beer, yeah.
Yeah. So, sometimes you got to step back and reaccount and then try to go at it again. KO in the house. Cheers, KO. Great to see you, my friend. I agree on the Bourbon County and a number of others. Local Pliny the Younger was still blowing a number of tops in a couple of hours. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. It seems like Pliny, I haven't had Pliny yet, but it seems like that still does really well out there for a lot of people. Like people are still out there trying to get the Pliny the Elder, Pliny the Younger. So it seems like Russian River is still doing a pretty good job on that. But again, it's that you have to be here to get it type thing, right? Like Pliny, you got to go to Treehouse. You got to come to Treehouse to get this. You want to get some of these other fans. So yeah, if you still have that lure that's out there, you might be drawing people in. But thinking about Bourbon County, do you think at a point like people are going to just get to that level? And we'll see what happens this year because again, prices might be higher depending on what's going on. That they're like, you know what? I'm not going to pay that for Bourbon. Like I see people, and I've probably done it myself a few times as well. Like, oh, Bourbon County's out. I'll get some Bourbon County. If I come across it, I'll pick it up, right? And it's like, oh, Bourbon County, $10.99, $11.99, $12.99, depending on where you're at a bottle. Oh, I'll go to get it because it's an OG. And then you get like the macaroon or the vanilla rye or $24.99, $27.99. Well, this version is $35.99. This version is for like, and then it's like someone comes out like the brewery and it's like $50 like a 25. That's too much. But it's like the brewery's giving you is 50, but you get like a 25.4 ounce bottle. But you're gonna pay 30 something for this for the 16. It's like people I don't think rationalize that in their head or whatever too.
Yeah. I mean, people are quite doing the like per ounce calculation or whatever.
Yeah.
But I do think like the Bourbon County stouts are delicious. Like every year I look forward to the variants in particular, and which one are they going to bring back and whatever. But I think there is a question of like, we were talking about like right sizing that, right? Like how many people really across the country are into that kind of beer and want to pay for it? Like there's like, I assume this is the same thing in other industries, like specialty cheeses. There's a market of people who really care about these weird, delicious French cheeses that are expensive and whatever. It's a very small sliver of people.
Yeah.
And like you don't see those cheeses in the CVS.
No.
But you see Bourbon County in the CVS. And it's like, I don't know. Is this
funny how that works out? Yeah.
Like it's about just figuring out like what is the volume.
Yeah. Oh, cheers, Edie. I understand. Great to have you on, my friend. Yeah, it's the volume of where you're going to actually to see that or to do it. And I feel like people are going to hit a price point at some. I mean,
Yeah.
people are used to paying what they pay for Bourbon County, but I just feel like at some point, if things do tighten up, it's going to be like, okay, and the Bourbon County is going to make a decision, Goose Island, what they want to do at that too. Can we still be selling at this price if people aren't willing to do it, right? And it's funny, Dave that does Beer in Front out of Chicago, he waits because he's in Chicago, and it's like in about a month or 2 months time, like their local Jewel grocery store will have some for 50% off.
Yep.
And they've been doing that for like a few years. So it's like, it's like, and then you're like, is it really worth the price? Or are we just kind of hooked into it at this point? Like we're just going around like Dave Chappelle's character. Like, you got any more of that? Any more of that Bourbon County?
I was gonna say it's like Halloween candy on November 1st, where you're like, well, here's all the Snickers I ever wanted,
right?
For like $2 a bag instead of $8 a bag.
Yeah. It's an interesting situation.
And I wonder, for people who are new, like, just getting into craft beer, are they? Why would they spend the money on Bourbon County? Like, what would make them? If they just see it on a shelf and it's $25, it's like, do they know that this is special? Are they excited about the flavors? Like, what is it that would signal to them that, like, oh, I should spend $25 on this one? That's, twice as much as a 6-pack of something I know. It's just I don't know how new people are finding it either.
I think it I think it gets to the type of consumer, right? Like if you're a new person and you've heard about Bourbon County, then you're kind of maybe inquisitive about it and you see it, you might get it. Now, depending on what like if you see one bottle is $25, you're like, wow, that's kind of crazy for a bottle of beer. But you may not know that's the variant, right? Because the regular one's half of that price or whatever. Right. But then, like the way Goose Island has Bourbon County out there, I just feel like a lot of people is like, it's one of those things. It's that fear of missing out, what they call it, that FOMO type thing, right? Yeah. Like people are like, I really don't want to get Bourbon County again, but they always do get like, if I don't get the one this year, then maybe I'll miss out on something good. And at some point, it kicks in. Like some people like, you got it. Well, I wasn't really looking for it, but it was there, so I went ahead and grabbed it, right? And that's probably a good amount of their people are kind of like been drinking it for a number of years. It's kind of like, all right, well, it was there, so I went ahead and picked it up or whatever. Like they're not going out and waiting in line like overnight anymore, but they'll stop in a store here on Black Friday, and if they see it there, they'll grab them and do something like that and everything. Yeah. And then it's kind of like, go ahead.
Are you a whiskey guy, Rod?
I try to do some whiskey. I should have done more because I used to live in Kentucky before we moved to Maryland and came back. But yeah, I get some of the whiskey stuff right, so I try to work that in as well.
Nice, because I was gonna say I feel like that would be a huge like bridge for Bourbon County. Would be like the whiskey geeks who are interested in the barrels that they're using and who are used to spending good money on whiskey. Like to me, that is a huge like overlap there of like people who wouldn't necessarily say that they're beer drinkers, but they're like, oh, it's in an Elijah Craig 20-year, like whatever. I'm interested in trying that. But, like, to see what I can see that beer, maybe I don't know, but I don't really like know whiskey geeks deeply enough to really understand like psychologically. What they want. But.
I think that can entice because we do have some of the people that watch the channel that do whiskey as well, or our whiskey main feature type thing, like our Bourbon Bounty that comes on here, and some other people. So I think for them, it is inquisitive to see what it'll taste like when they actually age in that whiskey barrel. But like to the new people, I don't know if I was a new person getting into beer right now, would I shell out like that $12, $13, $14 for one beer? I feel like it'd be kind of tough. Like you'd have to really convince me if I wasn't into it. Now, if you're into it and you're like us, you're in that beer geek type thing, it just makes, but it's kind of like, and I feel like with that market, as we know, and you know the numbers and stuff like that, as we talked about like at the conference, and we can tap it out here, we see some of the people shrinking, to Dr. J's point, right? So the people that were kind of more of that craft beer geek, I think, are more your mid to older upper. A lot of the newer, younger ones, they may not be going in that direction. So at some point, you're also dealing with a market that's shrinking on you as well. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out over the years with Goose Isle. Like, and not just saying Goose Isle, just these other ones that are doing the bourbon barrel. Because remember, it was like we used to have a lot of stuff on Rogue, used to do a lot of stuff, and they kind of just withdrew from pretty much all that stuff, especially when the bombers stopped getting.
Oh my God, the Rogue bombers.
Oh my God, looking at the bomber wall, and you're like, oh, do I really need 22 ounces of that? Yes, yes, I do.
I guess that's what I'm going with because I don't have a choice. Yeah,
you're coming home with me. Yeah, so which was a whole kid. I feel like it was a whole kidding of ourselves, right? Because now the more common size, and you've probably seen a lot of the stuff you're writing about or out there in the marketplace. Now we're back at the 19.2. So we're suddenly creeping back up to a bigger size, and people are more comfortable with the 19.2 now than they were. They're like, oh, I just want the 16. I'm good. Or I want a 12. But no, you see more and more people getting 19.2. So
yeah, those have sold particularly well at I think, obviously convenience stores, but also venues, sports venues, concert venues, where you don't want to keep getting up and going back and getting up and going back. So it's like, I'll just take like the giant beer.
Yeah. Well, and here's the funny thing with it. The 19.2, they're not putting like just regular beers in it. They're putting a 9, 9.5, 10% thing. And then if you go to a bar or a brewery, it's like, oh, I want to get that double IPA. They give it to you in the snifter glass, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, wait a minute, we're not supposed to, like, I can go get 19 ounce in a can, but you want to give this me a 12. And it's just, and that goes to the whole argument. Like, do you have to serve the large ABV in a small glass? I don't think you do personally. I think it's more of a kind of a check to make sure people don't get inebriated type thing. But
I do also think that like there is such a difference in what people are looking for in the on-premise at bars and restaurants and what people are looking for in the off-premise. Like we see this in data all the time. Or ask a brewery what sells best in your tap room and what sells best in distribution. Often very different. Like people, I think when you're sitting down at a bar, a restaurant, a brewery tap room, like you want to sit there for a while. You want to have a conversation. You might, you expect to have 3 or 4 beers. Like breweries will tell me, oh, like the lager sells amazing in the tap room, not as great in distribution. Because at the grocery store, when you have all the options, you're kind of doing a little more mental math. And also you might just be going home where you can sit on your butt. And so you're like, I mean, I cannot get over the pricing on some of those 19.2s of like 9% beers from some of the big national brands. It's like 2 for $6. And
that's what we get at our Kroger here.
How? And it's hard to argue with that math.
Yeah.
If someone's in a grocery store, or I'm sorry, if someone's in a tap room and like wanting to just have that longer experience, then sure, put the double IPA in a little glass and serve them a Pilsner next, whatever.
I mean, to your point, like the jalapeno IPA that I had, a 4-pack of this, it was actually on sale. It was $11.99, and usually it was at Kroger. It was at Kroger, so it was like, I think it was supposed to be like $13.99 or $14.99, right? So they knocked off a few dollars. I could have got like the Great Lakes Vibrations IPA, 9 ABV, 2 for $6. So I could have got 76 ounces for $12, the same amount I got for this for 4 of these for 64, and went from a 6 point whatever ABV up to a 9 point ABV. So it's kind of like for those that want to, if they do want to get their buzz on, which you always say, drink moderately, know your limits, don't want to get there and get hammered and get into something you don't want to be in, right? But for those that are going home sitting on their butt and they're like, I want to get a nice, it's hard to fight with that, right? And so, and when I go in, those ones are always the shelves that are cleaned out usually first. Like you always see them like down to 1 or 2 in that area.
I mean, it's very different goals, right?
Yeah.
Like when you go to a brewery, like again, you probably want to like sit with your friends, have a conversation, try a few different things. If you're just like hitting the C store after work, and you had like a long day and you just want your one beer. Like you go home, you drink your one beer and you're like, okay, like I'm out, right? Like that was a lot.
Yeah.
I'm done. And it was $3. I mean, I get
Oh,
that.
yeah.
I get,
Yeah.
you know, that's a very different goal,
Right.
you know. But yeah, I am still just like, if I drank 19.2 ounces of a 9% beer, like I do not want to be in public.
Well, come us Thursday happy hour because that's what we do. So.
Hey, fair enough.
Yeah,
well, Wednesdays are a little tamer.
Yeah, a little tamer. Get closer to the weekend. Oh, Cy has said Ballast Point, they moved their facilities and tap rooms, so they're just now getting back up to production. And he actually had to jet out, so appreciate Cy swinging by.
Yeah, my long lost cousin. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, Dee said Bourbon County is $24 before tax in North Carolina. Been sitting on the counter for 3 months. But if it's 24, I'm thinking it's probably one of the variants they got out there because I think did they bring macaroon out this year in the vanilla rye?
Yes, that sounds right. And vanilla rye. And wasn't there like the Mexican candy spicy? There was like a spicy one.
Yeah, I think there was some. My phone, because I've got them all. This one I get them. I don't even drink them. They're sitting there in my being cellar until I'm ready to drink them later on, years down the line. Because anything that's the base should not be that high for sure.
But again, still, it's like, you know, does the average beer person who's not standing there to read the label, right? You'd have to like read the label and all this stuff to like understand. It's like you just see $24 and you're like, what kind of magic beer is this? I can get a very nice bottle of wine for $24, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Vanilla Rye and Macaroon were both this year in the Bardstown cask. And what was the other one? The other one was the base version. Because there was only 4 you could get outside Chicago this year. Because the one was a proprietary barley wine and their proprietary ale you had to be in Chicago for. But like I got the Eagle Rare 2 in there from 2023. I haven't even thought about drinking. The 30th anniversary of 2022. That one, that was like 49 for that one there. That was kind of crazy. It's like, but it had like 3 different whiskey barrels. And I was like, go and get it. I mean, you know, but it's kind of
this is me admitting that this is probably like my most like basic bitch opinion. I'll share all night. As like a non-whiskey snob, I love rye whiskey. That's usually like my
it's a little spice kick.
Like a whiskey neat.
Yeah.
It's gonna be rye. But like as a non like bourbon snob, like the barrel variants are always delicious, but I feel like I'm not like sophisticated enough to truly enjoy those. And then I always love the crazy flavored shit. I'm like, give me that macaroon, give me that Neapolitan ice cream sundae s'mores bullshit. I always like those.
So we may do
also
some
the
taste
vanilla rye. I love the vanilla rye.
Okay, so you did like the vanilla rye this year, though. So I haven't tried it. Yeah, okay, all right. Yeah, so we'll do some taste testing when we're in Indy for sure to see. But have you ever had the Sagatuck Neapolitan then? Because you mentioned Neapolitan.
No.
That's what you want to get because that's actually they're out of Sagatuck, Michigan.
Yeah.
That is and I've had different Neapolitan beers. That is the best one that I've ever had. Like in Todd that does the happy hour with us on Thursdays. When I had it, I told him about it. He finally got it. And he was just like freaked out with it too. Cause like you get the chocolate, you get the vanilla, you get the strawberry, all these different moments as you're enjoying that beer. And it's just like, you just look at it like, how did they put this together? Like, how did you get all these things to work the way it does? And it just delivers very nicely. So you got to get Sagatuck Neapolitan to see if you can get that there.
I'll try to figure out. I mean, I am not above still like the beer trades. I know that makes me a million years old, but like I still have a few friends that like we send each other beer. And
well, I could probably get it here too, so we can definitely talk on that. And they might actually have it in Indianapolis when we're out there as well, because I think they do distribute in Indiana. Mikhail said, yeah, the Whitmer Double IPA at 8.6 has been on sale for $6.99 a 4-pack.
Wild.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's crazy for that. Yeah.
If it's almost best that I'm not 21 years old anymore because like that would have been like too tempting for my broke ass in my early 20s.
I think about when I was in college and we'd have the parties, right? And we were limited because I graduated in 91, so we were like late 80s, 90s, so it was all like Miller Genuine Draft was a fancy type one right back then, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you get Molson, you're spending big bucks, you get Molson Canadian in. And to think now, like you get some of these things, like some of the places here in Kentucky that I went to, you could get a case of beer sometimes for $12.99. And it was not old, expired. It was still good. They just had too much inventory.
Sure.
And I'm like, if I walked in a party back then with like an 8 or 9% beer, oh my God, it would just been like, we'd have been past Frank the Tank. We'd have been all, everybody would have been streaking for sure.
Oh my gosh. I remember this one guy that was in like our larger group of friends in college who, I don't know, he was like an interesting guy. I feel like he was like a music major. He was just like a very interesting, he had like weird tastes and stuff. And I remember him bringing like various like Belgian specialty beers to parties because there was like a decent bottle shop in town where you could like get stuff like that. But I didn't know about any of that when I was, that young. But he would bring these beers and we would drink them like they were just beer, like Bud Light or whatever we were drinking at the time. And you'd be like, well, A, this tastes crazy. This is like no beer I've ever had before. And you're also like, why am I so drunk so fast? And it was these are like Belgian doubles or whatever,
Yeah, it's kind of a Devel or Chimay or something. Yeah.
Yep. I remember him bringing a North Coast Prankster.
That's a classic. Yeah.
Right? Like, and it blew my mind. I was like, I didn't know beer could taste like this, but also like, what? I'm very drunk. I was like that.
Yeah, North Coast, they actually last year, it took me a while to get around to it. I finally had done a review, and they sent me one of the old Rasputin that was barrel aged in Westward whiskey.
Whoa.
I think it was Westward whiskey. That's a whiskey brand, right? It's West. It's West.
You're asking the wrong person here.
Let me see here. I can't think of the name of the whiskey it was. Old Rasputin.
Man, yeah, that's such an old OG beer.
Yeah,
it's probably still amazing.
It's already as good as it was, right? Yeah, right. It was Westward whiskey, and oh my God, it was a limited edition they came out with. I don't even know how many people actually got it out there because when I checked it on Untapped, there wasn't that many people that even had it. Oh my God, it was so smooth. It was just like you already got a winner with Old Rasputin, and now that you put it into this, yeah, it was so tasty. But it's always funny when you see. Sometimes I wonder if some of the breweries need to even barrel age some of the stuff they do if they've got a good thing. Because I had one, and it would be like the one from I'm trying to think. It's Dale's. Who does Dale? Dale's Oscar Blues.
Oh, Oscar Blues. Yeah.
There's their stout 1050. 1050, and they did a barrel aged 1050. And a 1050 is good, but they did a barrel aged, and I was like, it's still good, but did you really need it? Because the difference was just that slight. But people are paying a few more bucks to get that version. But sometimes you get somewhere it does make that wide jump, and it's like, okay, now I see why you did that. So sometimes it's definitely questionable.
Yeah, it has been. It was really cool last weekend to another category that I judged at the Montana Beer Awards was just like included just like straight up American stouts, no barrel aging, no imperial, no crazy flavors, just like American stout. And I was like,
Like
these
just
are
for
delicious.
like dry Irish, like no milk or anything like that, just a dry.
Yeah, well, it was in a flight. The way the category was grouped, there were some dry Irish stouts, there were some export stouts, oatmeal stouts, and then just American stout.
Okay.
Kind of hoppy, really roasty. I was like, I could not tell you the last time I even encountered a straight stout with no barrel, no flavors, no 13% ABV, and it was so delicious.
Just the classic.
Okay.
No throwing it
Yeah,
back.
just like
Yeah.
really nice. Like again, I made some crazy flavors, but it was nice to be reminded of just like a super well made,
Yeah.
just the basics.
And sometimes the pastry stouts, they can get to be too. I've had some that was just like, okay, it's too sweet at this point. But I've had some you can just go right through the bottle and it's like, oh, it's gone. It's like, so yeah. So it's that balance. It's kind of like peanut butter. Like I'm a fan of peanut butter stouts for the most part, but I've had some that were not good. You can just say too artificial. And then I've had some that were just like Tailgate Brewery out of Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
They always hit on their peanut butter, no matter what it was, the Imperial, the regular, all their peanut butter stouts are pretty much solid. And it's just like they probably have done the best peanut butter line of beers I think I've seen from any brewery.
Nice.
So it's always nice when you find a good one, yeah. But some of them are you're just like, okay, no, I can't do it. I had one time I've had bacon beer before. I don't know if you've had beer like brewed with like bacon and stuff.
I don't think so.
Yeah, it imparts like a smoky flavor into it. But I've had some that were like, okay, this bacon must have been burned. Like it was terrible. But then I've had some that were good. So like any recipe,
totally.
Yeah. So
there's good versions. There's rough versions.
I tell people just because everybody says it's craft beer doesn't mean it's always going to be a great craft beer either. Because some people's like, because people like to slam the macros and stuff too. And I'm like, well, the macros are the what you're going to get. It's like McDonald's, right? You're not going to go to McDonald's and expect to get a burger that you would get like at Morton's, right? Or Ruth's Chris or anything like that. So it's your standard type.
But it's the same every time.
It's the same every time. You know exactly what you're going to get. Well, sometimes extra onions, sometimes not. But
sometimes the McDonald's ice cream machine is broken. Sometimes it works.
Yeah. Speaking of McDonald's, we went there a few weeks ago, and they had the Shamrock Shakes going. And that's still my favorite shake flavors. I had to get, and I'm like, it's not even March yet. I'm ahead of the game. I'm already getting Shamrock Shakes. This is awesome. So, and my friends like the ice cream machine was. I've never been to a McDonald's when the ice cream machine was broken. Apparently, I'm like one of the few because everybody else.
Yeah, this happens all the time.
Yeah, I've never been to one. So knock on wood, it still keeps working.
There you go.
But with the beer, as far as, and we'll get wrapped up here in a bit too. But with the beer, do you remember what was the first beer that got you into even enjoying craft beer?
Yeah,
like, I jump out like a light bulb went off or something.
I mean, I was lucky in that I went to school right outside of Chicago, so it was in a big enough city that there was, you could find good beer, different kinds of beer if you wanted to go find it. So I think, that Prankster was like a very early revelation. Mm-hmm. And then it kind of got me interested in other Belgian style beers. Goose Island was making Matilda at the time.
Oh, I remember Matilda. Yeah.
And that beer was so lovely with food and, on its own too, but just that beer was really important to me. And then, so I think Belgian styles in general, whether made in actual Belgium or like American versions of Belgian styles, which I think is pretty common of that time.
Right. Having that thing, you weren't getting that thing really here. Like it was
never had a beer that tasted like that.
Yeah.
Right.
I was into craft beer by the time I had my first Belgian, but
my first Belgian, yeah. There you go.
Yeah. So, but the first time I had it, it was like instantly like, okay, I got to get more into this style. And Belgian became quickly a favorite style of mine. Like going through the Chimay, going through the Devels, going through whatever W word it was. I was just like, give me more, give me more. Yeah, I was just like, keep them coming, So I was like stacking them up for a while.
I was just talking with a friend recently who's also really into beer, and I was like, I have not sat down and drank through the Chimay blue, white, gold in red, like in
Yeah,
so long. I'm like, I really need to like drink all the Chimays again because they're delicious and it's
they
just been
are.
forever. Like, when do you ever see them anymore? And I was like, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna get them.
Yeah, we did a beer festival probably about the summer before COVID, I think. It was in Cincinnati, and I was out there talking to the Delirium sales
Mm,
team,
mm,
and that's the first time I had the Delirium Red, and I
mm,
had that, and I was like, "Oh, this is like liquid candy. This is like red
mm.
licorice if it was in beer form, right?" So I'm just
That's
like,
great.
I had to step away from the booth because I would just sit there. I could just drink that the whole time, not even go see anybody else. It was
That's
just so
amazing
good.
self-restraint, Todd. Very well done. That's
Yeah.
very strong-willed.
I'm like, Guy Fieri, take it away from me. Take it away.
I need to physically remove myself from this situation. Yeah. Oh
This is
man.
not going to be good for anybody. But I cracked open here. I was actually just drinking one of the NA beers, a Kolsch
Oh
from
gosh.
Rationale and stuff. But you had mentioned NA, and I was just thinking, what were your thoughts on what you're seeing out there? Because obviously the explosion's taking place, right? So
Yeah.
what are you kind of picking up? And are you getting more like you got breweries that are just like Rationale making it, like Rationale, Go Brewing, Athletic, but then you got breweries that are kind of like, we got to have something in the ring. So
Totally.
yeah.
Yeah. I think between all of that, between the dedicated NA breweries and just, regular breweries making their own NA versions of their flagship, Black Butte NA, Blue Moon NA,
Mhm.
um, the number of NA beers on shelves nationally has just exploded. Like, the stats on it are crazy in just a few years. Um, I think the question, there's like a really long tail in NA beers, right? Like, the big guys still sell the bulk of the volume.
Mhm.
The Heineken 00s, Athletic, etc., Guinness Zero, like those are
Yeah.
still like selling, but there's so many other brands just kind of in that long tail. And I think the question is how much shelf space is the right amount for NA? Do
Yeah.
people need like two coolers of NA, or do they just need like one well curated cooler? I mean, it's the question for any kind of
Yeah.
product, right? Like,
Yeah.
how many options do people need um to be happy? Like, do you need to choose from 15 local IPAs, or would
Yeah.
10 do it, And I think
Yeah.
that's the question kind of that's going to face NA in the next couple of years as that long tail keeps growing, is just like, are these brands making money if they're very small and at the end? Because it's expensive to
Yeah.
produce.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you're still
Consumers
doing
are
a
like, why
brewing
does it cost so
process.
much? And
Yeah.
consumers don't understand why it costs the same as regular beer.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They're like,
We
"This
talked about
isn't
that last week.
alcohol, so."
Yeah.
So it feels like I'm paying the same amount for less. Um, so I think there is a question of just like how much shelf space is going to keep being dedicated to these, and when do retailers kind of say like, all right, I think we've like hit our ceiling on like how
Yeah.
many NA beers we need. Um, we'll see, but like it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, well, you talk about the shelf space, and one other thing too with the NA, it's not like me growing up, being older, it's like it was NA. It was like, okay, it was Sharpo Duels, the St. Pauli girl, right? Like
yep, yep.
now it's not like just NA beer. It's like we got hazy IPA, we got regular IPA, we got porter, we got
Hop
sour.
water. What do we do with
Yeah,
hop water?
yeah. So it's kind of like you're starting to see that expansion taking place. So it's kind of like it's not all like fit all into the one little drawer we have over here because they're spreading out. So that's going to be
Totally.
kind of interesting, and they're
Yeah.
getting better as they're going.
Oh,
You're
thank
having
God.
different
I
ones.
mean,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like the Black Butte, I might struggle with that on the taste test versus the regular Black Butte because it is
very
just
good.
that good. It is just that good. Everybody I've known that's had it has just been so impressed with it, right? Just the haze. I haven't had it yet, but people were telling me to
Oh,
try
I like
that one
that
from
one.
Sam Adams. Yeah, and
Yep, I like the Sam Adams
um, this one here from Rationale, the Kolsch style, very much Kolsch-like in it.
one. Mhm.
And it's different because when I had a few coming out of the gate, like some of the athletic, I said, well, it's good, but it's kind of seltzery. I can feel like it kind of
Mhm.
seltzery. As I'm having more and more, that seltzery thing is starting to dissipate more. They're getting more and
Mhm.
more right on where they need to be, I think. And that
Yes.
Heineken 0.0, I did the review on that. I'm like, this is better than Heineken to me. Like I
I
could literally pick up a few of these and I'd be okay just to chill with this, watching the game or eating a pizza or whatever like that and everything, where I wouldn't do that with regular Heineken.
For me, the Guinness Zero, like, it is not exactly like regular Guinness, but it
Yeah.
scratches the same itch. Like, it's creamy, it has the same roastiness. Like, to me, that one is a really good, like, it just hits the spot for,
Yeah.
when I'm like, I want a Guinness, but I like don't really need another drink, or
Yeah.
I don't feel like drinking tonight, whatever. Yeah, I love that there are NA options and that they're starting to be in like just very mainstream places,
Yeah.
sports bars, dive bars. That's awesome. Michelob Ultra has a new zero that I have not tried yet, but
I have not seen
I
that
am
one.
dying to
Okay.
try that one. That one's new,
Okay.
so that'll be
Yeah.
next on my list.
Well, speaking of Chicago, Go Bruins doing a really good job and stuff, and they're kind of expanding their line out, doing well. But speaking of shelf space and not just with the NA, you also got the RDDs that are taking up more space now, right? So they're hitting
Yeah,
more stuff, and I got to feel like at some point, and you did good, talking about this at the conference and stuff, the THCs. I feel like at
yes,
some point they're going to get out of dispensaries and be in some of these grocery stores. So that's going to be possibly more shelf space. Like, what are you seeing on that front?
yeah,
Anything? And some of the THC, the beer fest we just did in Cincinnati. I was there with Urban Artifact at their table,
mhm,
and they teamed up with the THC person next to them to make a
yeah,
drink, and the THC was freaking phenomenal. I mean, it was like one of the first things that sold out of the beer fest. Like that was the first one wiped out
yeah.
was the THC one. It was so good.
I think there's a lot of consumer interest and like pent up demand. Like people are really curious about these. People who consumers that I talk to like really like them. The margins are good for craft
Yeah,
breweries. It's not super expensive to make. There's no fermentation time. You can make a THC beverage in like 2 days.
yeah,
Sparkling water and the emulsion and whatever flavor you want to put in it. In terms of like, will they take away significant share from beer? I don't think the sky is falling with
right,
that. Like,
right.
I think, yeah, there are people who are like mixing, THC beverages like into their routine,
Mhm.
um, along with alcohol. I mean, yeah, some people completely stop drinking and like only do THC or whatever. But like, I think for most people, these things people have always smoked weed. Like,
Yeah.
this has always been like in the mix in some way. Shelf space is different, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't think this is like a gigantic threat to alcohol. I think most
No.
people use all of these products in different ways at different times. Like a lot of people I know um drink THC or take gummies like to help them
Mhm.
sleep. That's not
Right.
like a beer thing. You don't like down a double IPA just to like help you go to bed. So I'm like, that
No.
wasn't a threat. Like, that's not a threat to alcohol
Yeah.
because it's a completely different occasion. Sure, there are social occasions where some people are gonna like not have a beer and have a weed seltzer instead. But like, I don't think it's enough of a seismic shift to like kill beer or alcohol by any
Yeah.
means.
Yeah, I
I think
think
it's
overall the total picture I think it's more with if you're that retailer, how much
yes,
space do I
right.
assign?
Yep.
That's
Yep.
where it's
Yep.
gonna
Yep.
come into play there. So
Yep.
that'll be the interesting aspect because I see, like I said, if they get it past where they can get that into stores, then it's like
Yes.
your shelf space is limited on what you have on that aisle. So it's kind of
Mhm.
like who starts
Yeah.
pulling what and everything
No,
too.
that is real.
Yeah.
Um, that is real. But again, do you need 3 doors of THC or do you need just one door that moves really fast, right?
Right.
Do
Right.
consumers care about different brands of THC? Do they care about different strains and dosages or do they kind of just like want the weed seltzer?
That's gonna be the question. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I don't
apparently
know.
after the Bud Light fiasco, some people did care about their Bud Light. So
True. True. I mean, fair enough. No, I mean, yeah, like you can have brand loyalty in any segment, but like,
Right.
how much brand loyalty do people have to just like
Yeah.
a wink seltzer or a can
Yeah.
seltzer, whatever, pick your brand, or is it
Yeah.
just like, oh, I'll drink whatever weed seltzer, it's fine.
Yeah. And also for consumers that are like kind of in what we see there with like the craft beer geek, it's always an ever changing type thing because
Mhm.
like a lot of us are like we're moving around to the newer things all the time. So then it's kind of
Yep.
like, or do you need to lock in to have something there, or just keep rotating it out and people will keep coming in? So it'll
Totally.
be
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It'll be an interesting wild frontier for sure. But I had a lot more stuff, Kate. I know I've had you here for a while. Like time flies when you're having fun, so we'll have to get you back on again.
We
I know you
covered a lot. I
we
mean,
did.
we went back in time. We went forward in time. We did it all.
Time does fly on here. I'm trying to cut. I've had some of these where I keep on, and it's like, oh, we'll keep going, and it's like 2 hours, 3 hours. I'm trying to get a little bit more lower down.
I'm
but
too ADHD.
yeah,
I can't even sit for that long. You have
like,
to pick someone with a longer.
How long we been going? Like 2.5 hours. What? It doesn't feel like. Well, yeah, that's how long. Yeah. So, but we'll cover more when we get you on again. Of course, we'll talk again here in a couple months. There in Indy. That'll be awesome. Yeah, you too, and me, you, Aaron, and everybody will all get together, I'm sure, and have a blast and share some good stories. And anything you want to say, anything upcoming that you're working on. I know on the website, are you still posting your pieces to the website and people can check out?
Yeah, people can see some of my recent work at katebernot.com. If you are in the industry and you want like industry insights, that sightlines.news is where you will find that. The Gist is live on YouTube and podcast platforms. The Gist by Sightlines. Searching that should get you to it. But otherwise, just like, Rod, thank you for having me. I loved getting to talk more with you. I love that this is live, so like your audience can chime in. That's so fun. I feel like I don't often get to be part of podcasts where it's like live feedback, and that's really, really fun. So thank you also to the people who like hung out with us.
Yeah, definitely. It's been great to have you on here. And again, we'll get you back on again, I'm sure, to talk some more great stuff there too. And for those of you, before I sign off here, next Wednesday, I will have another legend in. I'll have Aaron Gore in from Beer 30. So we'll be talking next week and the week after. I have like 3 weeks booked out. This is just like a crazy year. I have Body by Beer podcast that we just set up for them to come in. So we'll have both Chelsea and Liz will both be here for that. So that'll be a good opportunity as well for to share some stuff. And after that, I might need a break for a little bit, but we'll see. But everything is all built up. It's been a great beer year. I can't complain.
You're so organized. Good for you.
Yeah, so a lot of stuff happening going forward. And Kate, as always, if you want to hang out for a second, I'll shut this down and we can talk for a quick second. And thanks for everybody that tuned in. Make sure to check out Kate. Kate, they can also follow you on Instagram as well. And that's Kate Bernot, right? KT.
Just KBERNOT.
And you're also on X, right, too? Or Twitter?
I am not as much anymore. I'm on Blue Sky more now.
Blue Sky? Okay, that's where I'm at, too. Yeah.
KBERNOT. But yeah, Instagram, Blue Sky, my website.
Yeah, somebody else at the conference.
I'm on the internet. You can find me.
Somebody at the conference, like, weren't you on X? Like, yeah, I was, but not anymore. And it was like, yeah. They're like, did you like? Well, I'll tell you what happened. Yeah, so I was like, yeah, I was one of the people that kind of left X with some stuff they were going to be doing. So yeah, but anyway, jump off a ship that's sinking when you can. Thanks for everybody that tuned in. Look forward to catching you guys tomorrow night. We'll be back for the happy hour. So Todd will be here, and maybe another great guest of characters will be here as well. Great cast of guest characters. That being said, let's shut it down, and I will see you then. Cheers, everybody.